All right. I just want to make sure that we are on. Good afternoon. I'm so sorry it took a couple of minutes to get the techie stuff out of the way. So, who is online? Hi. You could just say hi and where you're from. I know that there's a little bit of a delay, so I know I have to wait just a couple of seconds. Oh, thank you. Where are you from? Nice, nice. I am in North Carolina. Sounds good. All right. If there's anybody else, just say hi and where you're from before we get started with this fun stuff. That's awesome. And if you're shy, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Can everybody hear me okay? Just want to make sure before we get started. Yeah? Perfect. Oh, okay. All right. I know people are going to be trickling in, and that's okay. But just for the sake of time, let's get this party started. Okay. Who am I? I'm sure that you read that first page and it said, I am Iya Omileti. Oh, let me see if I hide this for a moment. Okay. Oops, sorry. I am Iya Omileti Olubumi. And I started in these traditions about 26 years ago. I'm going to have to start doing the math, but it might be 27 because we're in 2019. But last I counted, it was 26 years. And I am from New York City. I was godparentless for, more than 10 years. So I think 12 years or so, I didn't have a godparent at all. And it was just me trying to find my way. It was pretty tough, but I finally found a house and I got initiated into the mysteries of Yemaya in New York and other things, but we're just going to talk about that. And then I came here. We moved to North Carolina where I started Orisa Wisdom. And I also am the creator of the Orisa Wisdom podcast. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. If not, I will go back and I'll post it into the group when I go back into the chat. And that's basically me. So before we get started, most webinars suck. It's not that they suck. What sucks about them is that something is always coming and you're like, oh my God, when is the bomb coming? What are they going to throw at me? And how much is it going to cost? And when is it coming? And how are they going to give it to me? So I really want you to focus on what is about to happen. I want you to focus, especially if you're brand new. I want you to focus and I want you to learn because I really feel that what I've put together will help a brand new person who doesn't know anything, and it's coming from a real life thing. It's not coming from, I am holier than thou and I can help you evolve. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot of things and intricacies that are part of the traditions, especially if you're coming in from another faith, things that you're supposed to know, but many people don't, and they get into trouble. So because I want you to focus, I'm just going to be very forthcoming and tell you that I would, at the end, like to speak to you about a program that I created. So just to take all of that off and all that stress away, here it is. That's pretty much it. I have a program available. It is 7 weeks long. This is how much it costs. There is no trick that if you enroll now, it's going to go up, $5,000, and then, it's going to go away forever and you'll never see it again. It doesn't work like that. So this is it. Nothing else, no tricks. I really now that you know, I want you to take out your workbooks. I hope you printed them. And if not, I'll link it on the chat. But I really want you to focus on what we're about to do. All right? That's pretty much it. Okay? If you don't have your workbook, let me know and I will post it. I'll post the link here. Actually, I'll just post the link here in case anybody else comes in. They can see it. So give me a second so that I can go back and post it in here for you. Okay. And there you go. All right. And there you have it. Okay. Does this sound like you? You're part of a gazillion online groups because Facebook has, I don't even know how many, and you still feel disconnected. You want to know what to do to find your spiritual house. You're not sure which priest to trust. Trust is a very big issue in our community, and it's a big issue. You know people who have been scammed before, or you yourself have been scammed before, and you don't want to make the same mistake, or you don't want to make it again. If any of those questions sounded true to you, then you're in the right place. I've created this in 10 steps. It's not going to be easy to go through these steps in real life, but I want you to be aware of them. Okay? Just be aware of each of these steps because they all will play a role in each other. All right. What you're going to learn today, we're going to talk about expectations. The expectations of what you should expect in the traditions. Okay? We're going to talk about that these are traditions. It's not a place to get spells. I'm sure you've been online and you're like, well, how do I get Oshun to find me a husband? Or how do I use this Orisa for this? It doesn't work that way. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the different lineages. We're going to talk about types of readings. I really want you guys to pay attention because the types of reading are very important so that people don't try to pull the wool over your eyes. You know what I mean? We're going to talk about your ancestral foundation. We're going to talk about your ancestor shrine. Very, very important. We're going to talk about the worship color that we have in our traditions. We are really going to talk about what makes a responsible priest. And this is going to be a major point for you because you're going to need that. It doesn't matter where you go. You're going to need to know how to recognize that because those are the people who are going to help you in this tradition. We're going to talk about religious events. We're going to talk about advice for choosing a godparent and a house. Where it all began. Now, on the last live class, I had New Yorkers, so they were familiar with the place I'm about to speak. But since you're not New Yorkers, I'm still going to tell you the story. In New York City, in Manhattan, there's a place called Julia de Burgos Cultural Center. It used to be a public school. It's a great place because you can find dance classes, different types of arts and acting and whatever. However, the community is known to give bembes there. Bembes are drummings for our traditions. And there was a drumming that was public and I found out about it because a friend of mine told me. And of course, I'm brand new. I think I was about 20 years old. And I go in there dressed in white with my little white handkerchief on my head. And I'm so excited because I'm going to meet some Orisha and hopefully they'll tell me something that is going to change my life forever. You know, all those things that go through your mind when you are in the traditions in the beginning. It started filling up. I remember there was a point, I don't know, there were about 60 people. It was a large room, but there were about 60 people started to get crowded. And somebody said, oh, you, like to a group of us, you stand by that wall. So, of course, I did. And there was some commotion outside. I didn't know at the time what happened. It took me a long time to figure out what had happened. But there was a big commotion outside. And somebody said, came up to me, it's the priest. And he came literally 2 to 3 inches from my face. And he's like, you got Ocha. I mean, there was spit involved. And I was scared. And I just nodded and said no, like no. You're not supposed to be here. I don't understand why these alejos are always doing it. He was rambling on, but he was yelling. Everybody stopped talking. Everybody stared at me. And I just slinked to the back. It was pretty embarrassing for me. And I wanted to go home, but my legs would not move me from the spot. I was so scared. I was just devastated that this has happened in a community when I'm trying to find a godparent. You know what I mean? I'm trying to meet priests. And a lady came over, and I remember her. She's tall, African American lady, dark skin, beautiful, tall, gele. And she leaned over, and I thought that she was going to tell me how everything was going to be okay because she saw everything that happened. She just leaned over and whispered to me, sometimes some people's heads are bigger than their crowns. And she just sat straight again. And that was it. And I'm like, what is this lady talking about? It took me a couple of weeks to figure out what she meant. I was under a lot of fear at that point. I was scared and embarrassed. And I realized what it meant. But I think looking back, that is where Orisha wisdom began. So I became obsessed. Obsessions are the only things that matter. Man, it's mattered to me when I started this because I didn't realize that it was still too late 2017 and people were still having the same issues that we were having in 1990s and early 2000s. It was crazy. It's just, I thought that we had evolved, but apparently people still have issues and it's the same ones. So I became obsessed in helping people not go through those experiences and having a better experience. This is what folks are saying after working with Orisha Wisdom. So you can take the time and read that on your own. These are some people who have started knowing zero. They started from nothing. And they worked with us for a while, and they realized that, now they are okay to go to where they need to go. One of these people that is speaking here is actually about to get crowned. And I'm so, so proud of him because he found exactly where he needed to go. And that is just fantastic. If you stay until the end, for one, I will be super, super grateful. But I'm going to share with you a document. It's a document that is part of another class. It's another class that I sell on its own. And from what I'm told, the document itself is worth its weight in gold. Because if you're in the market of a godparent, if you're looking for a godparent, if you're trying to figure out how to do it, this is the place that you're going to need to go. And I understand you don't have the class, but I think the document will be helpful enough because it's going to give you the starting point for a conversation with that priest to really know whether that is going to be a great match for you. So stay until the end and I will give this to you. All right. Are you ready to start? I'm going to jump on the chat. Are you ready? Just let me know. Let me know. I know on Facebook, I got some people telling me that they're ready. Yes, yes, yes. I know, I'm waiting for that delay. It's like excruciating, those 20 seconds. I really need to have that music of that game show. All right. Number 1, this is in your workbook. Oh, speaking of the workbook. Okay, so the workbook had page 1. In page 1, I was hoping that you took the time to write down your thoughts. It's very important to know what you are looking for and to be honest with yourself because that is what's going to help you to grasp whatever information you're going to grasp. And only you can be honest with yourself. So if you didn't get a chance to do that, that's okay. Take the time after the class, sit quietly. It's only going to take a few minutes. Just jot things down. So on page 2 on the workbook, step number 1, the Orisha traditions are not an overnight thing. I know, sorry, because everybody gets like all excited. They're meeting everybody in the traditions and they really want it to happen right away. But a lot of people tell me, I'm ready right now. And I'm telling you that no matter what, no matter what, you're not going to get initiated next month. You have to learn and understand the process. That's on your workbook. The process is so important. And it starts from beginning to end. And there is a beginning, and there may be some variables in the middle. Everybody starts, let's say, looking at the picture in the red. But everybody's middle may be different. This is where it gets a little tricky for folks. But if you know and you understand the process, you still are able to cope and to maneuver. Number two, these traditions are traditions. They're a way of life. Okay, that's in your workbook. They're a way of life. This is not a quick way to get what you want. Okay, it just isn't. It isn't a quick way to get your way, to get what you desire, to get, that husband, that this, you want to get, keep this man at home, or keep that girl, or make her fall in love with me. These traditions are not meant for that. They're the way that you live, how you interact with the world around you. Do you make your ancestors proud? Do you make your Orisha proud? Do you bring pride to the house that you're part of? This is what that is about. These traditions are not to get spells for what you want and when you want them. It's not a place for, oh, I'm just feeling like doing this spell that I got from this book. This is not a place for that. Another one that we get often is, oh, but my grandmother, she used to, and then you put in here, mix this with that and make this and that. So now I can do that, right? Nope. People are like, but why? This is all a spiritual thing, right? This is a spiritual place that you can come and do spiritual things. These traditions have a structure and a reason to their style of worship. It's not open this book to page 25, let me get a spell, and now I'm going to snatch that husband. It doesn't work that way. There are foundationals, there are ranks, they have hierarchies. It's really involved. One thing that we need priests to show us how to connect. Okay? And that's on your workbook. We need priests. We need them to do the spiritual readings. I put the shells there because that, if you're working with an Olorisha, that's going to be the main thing that they are doing their readings to you on. We need them to be our teachers. They are the ones who teach us protocols. They're the ones who teach us how to behave and who are our elders and about our lineage and about this Orisha, their experience with the Orisha. They're the ones who, really, they're the ones who give us the know-how to that world, to their world. Very important. This is not a solitary tradition. We've had some people who believe that they can self-initiate. I understand that there are many pagan traditions that you can be a solitary witch, right? A solitary pagan. You can self-initiate if you know the rituals, and there are plenty of books, and you can self-initiate. This is not it. You need the community. And also, this is your personal spiritual experience. But this is a communal tradition. This is your life, your journey, your lessons to be learned, your successes for you to reach your destiny, but it cannot happen without the community. This is how the traditions are built. Number 3, learn the different Orisha traditions. When people are coming into the traditions, and especially when I get them brand new into our Facebook group, so I don't know if you're part of it, but we have a Facebook group. It's called the Orisha Wisdom Community, and you can just look it up and answer those questions, and we'll let you right in. A lot of people, they're like, well, I just want to get initiated because I know that Orisha is for me. And I'm like, well, what tradition? Oh, I don't know. What lineage? I have no idea. Very important that you know what resonates with you, because a lot of people jump in and then it's a mistake, and that's very costly. Let's talk about a few of them. When I was growing up in the traditions, you would hear a lot of, oh, that is traditional Yoruba, or that's traditional. Nowadays, it's called Isese. So if you hear either or, we're talking about the Yoruba traditions that are not mixed because of the Middle Passage. So they are as direct to Yoruba, to Nigeria as they can. Okay? Let's talk about Lukumi. Lukumi is by far the biggest here in the United States. When they came, all the different slaves came in through the Middle Passage, there were a lot of things that were pretty scary, and it's a pretty grim time in our history. However, in order to keep the traditions alive, some changes had to happen. And this is where you hear Santeria, because the saints had to kind of be involved in order to keep it alive so that people could still worship. So there's a slight difference in the Lukumi. Lukumi only worships the Orishas, and Santeria, they syncretize. Like they say, for example, Santa Barbara is really Shango, but they still say Santa Barbara. So that would be Santeria, okay? Candomblé, same. Yoruba traditions came through the Middle Passage, and in Brazil, they morphed. So if you ever have met a candomblé priest, they will have Yoruba prayers, but a lot of Portuguese words are in there and in their worship, because that is how it morphed. And they still have Orisha initiations, but everything is different. The teachings is different. The way you worship is totally different, okay? Then you have voodoo. So if you heard of voodoo or hugan or mambo, this same thing. Yoruba traditions, Middle Passage, slavery, changes happened, but this mostly originated from Haiti. Oh, by the way, the Lukumi and Santeria originated in Cuba, okay? And Cuba is close to Puerto Rico, so you'll hear that it was birthed in Cuba. Some people will argue Puerto Rico. I say Cuba, but either or, those islands were the origin of that. Okay, back to voodoo, same thing. You still need to have your community, still need somebody to help you, to teach you, to initiate you. You still need a learning time, and this part comes from Haiti. Okay, the key, I was about to get into this without this slide. The key is to find which lineage resonates with you. That's on your workbook. Some people will say, well, I really want to reach. I'm dreaming with Oshun every day, and I'm sure she's calling me. So I'm going to go to Nigeria and I'm going to initiate. And I'm going to say this, and I know I may catch some slack, but I am saying this from experience. Don't let the color of your skin or where you are from limit you to which lineage is the one that's for you. I'll explain. I had this person, actually, I've had many people who say that Isese is for the African Americans and they don't want to do anything with Lukumi. And I said, well, don't limit yourself, because that may be where you need to be. Because remember, the Middle Passage still happened. And we don't know where your ancestral line may be and where it's going to be erased for you, where you're going to find your best, your destiny. Where is it? So don't just shut yourself off because of the color of your skin or where you're from. If there is a tradition that truly calls you and you truly love it and you've participated and you've met people and you love it, really investigate whether that one is the one for you. Okay? Number 4, we're still on page 2, by the way. Know the different types of spiritual readings for your tradition. This is very important. We're going to spend a little bit of time here because I have found that a lot of people have come to us after the fact. And I don't want you to be one of those after the facts. They have given them readings that were supposed to be Orisha readings, but they weren't. They were not Orisha readings at all. It was something else. So let's talk about that. The question that whenever you are going to book a reading with a priest is you have to ask how. How are you going to read me? They should be able to tell you this. And once they tell you, there's only 3 ways that you should be read. There's absolutely no exception for a spiritual reading anyway, okay? The first one is done with the dilogun. So you're going to hear the diloguns or the meri dilogun. So if you hear that, that's fine. It's just the 16 shells of Orisha. Usually they will read you with one of Eshu's shells. And when they pray and there's water involved and whatever, they're going to do some things. They might present it to you that you're going to speak or not speak. It depends on the priest. Something is going to, once they fall on the mat or the basket, it's okay. An odu is going to come out, okay? An odu will let the priest know what is going on at the reading. This is in your workbook. What is going on at the reading? This is an odu. Oh, let me explain a little bit on the odu. Odu is the energy that is surrounding you at that time. It is so important because that energy is what tells the priest which orishas are speaking to you, or if it's egun or a combination, it's going to tell them in the direction of what ebo it is that you need to make, which is a sacrifice. So your spiritual work, all of that will come from that odu, okay? A different type of orisha readings that you're going to have if you are fast. So you have to know, oh, let's go back here for a moment. Whenever you're getting a reading with the diloguns, it's going to be with the following. It's going to be with a santero, santera, an olorisha, babalosha, or iyalosha. Very important. So write them down as best as you can, but just kind of have it in the back of your mind. These are the people who are going to read you with the Meri Dilogun. Okay? All right. Now let's talk about Ifa. Some people will say, well, you have to get a reading with Ifa first. You don't have to get a reading with Ifa first. The differences of Ifa readings is that they have more oduns that can open up on the mat versus with the Meri Dilogun. So if your first reading is with an Orisha priest, that's enough. If you need more information, then they will direct you to a babalawo that they're working with, or if you have one. Don't worry about that. That's a pretty decent way to go. An Ifa reading will be done with an awo Ifa. That means a student of Ifa. It's going to be with a babalawo, which is the father of the mysteries of Ifa, or an Iyanifa, which is the mother of the mysteries of Ifa. An awo Ifa is basically, it's the same thing as a babalawo. The difference between an awo and a babalawo is that the awo has not birthed another babalawo. That means they have not initiated another babalawo under them. That's it. There's some people who remain awos for the rest of their lives and they are phenomenal. But it's just the difference. So when you hear this, you know, like, oh, okay, I'm getting the correct reading from the correct type of priest. There are 2 ways that they're going to read you when it comes to Ifa. One of them is going to be with the ikins. There are these types of seeds, and I tried to show a very good picture of them here. And they'll have 16 seeds in their hands, and they're going to do prayers. There's going to be water involved, and they're going to do a whole bunch of stuff, and they're going to shift them from each hand. And depending on what is left in one of the hands, they're going to write it down in the opong. I'm going to show you a picture of the opong shortly. And then from there, they continue down until they get an odun. And that's how they read you. Another way, this is an opong, that circle thing. It's called the opong. It's like the board. What's on top of it, I tried to get a picture of the simplest opele that I could get. And this is how a babalawo can read you. It is a chain that has seeds cut in half. So 4 are on each side. And there are little cowrie shells, and they can be very intricate. So if I'm a priestess of Oshun, right, and I'm an Iyanifa, and my dad is Shango, for example, then I may have a beautiful opele that has the colors of Oshun and Shango as well. We'll just have the colors of Ifa. Some of them are very intricate. Some of them are really big. Some of them are really small. But the point is that that is an opele. So if Ifa is reading you, it has to be with one of those 2 methods. End of story. There's nothing else that they're going to give you a reading on. All right? There are other implements that are used in our traditions, but not for any other style. So you're going to find, of course, the gourds. So if you're a Spanish-speaking person, the jicara. You're going to see that there's a powder on top of that board. That's okay. There may be a coin. There's going to be a little statue usually that houses the shells, or there's things that you're given. Those are called ibos. That's okay. There's the fly whisk. Those are all things that are part of our traditions. Okay? But these are things that are not part of our traditions. And if anybody tries to give you a reading with those and tell you, yeah, but Oshun said, it's false. It just does not happen. If anybody tries to read cards, and I mean any tarot, and I know a lot of people love the Orisa tarot cards, and the art is absolutely beautiful. No one is negating that. But that is not an Orisa reading. That is done with archetypes that came from Europe. It has nothing to do with the Orishas. Okay? I didn't know this was a thing, but apparently people are doing Orisha readings. So if anybody's going to pull out a pendulum, that is not an Orisha reading. Okay? I put this picture here because palm readings have nothing to do with Orishas. No, they're not going to talk to you through your palm. I've seen that people have tried to do vessels of water. That is not an Orisha reading. Coffee grinds, the bowl thing, nothing like that is done. The tobacco, that is also not an Orisha type of reading. I want you to know, because so that as you're going in your journey, you don't have to get caught in that. It's just really disheartening for me to hear the stories that are coming in, because people really felt and they thought that that would be an Orisha reading. Very important. Only an initiated priest can do these readings. So if you're getting an Orisha reading, then it is a santero, as I mentioned before, a santera. Olorisha just means a priest of Orisha. Babalosha is a male Orisha priest. Iyalosha is a female Orisha priest. Very important. And if it has to do with Ifa, we're talking about Awo, Babalawo, or Iyanifa. There's just no other type of title. I wanted to make this bigger, much bigger, because it came to our attention that a lot of people are doing readings with our sacred implements, but they're not initiated. I'm not negating that you may be a very spiritual person, but if you do not have initiation, you do not have the ashe. That means the power. That means the right, the merit for you to give these readings to anybody else. So no initiation, no ashe. And one question you can always ask, sorry, sip of water. One question that you can ask is, who's your godparents? I'm going to tell you this. That is never a secret. If you ask that question to any priest, that is something that they must tell you, who their godparents were, alive or dead. And if there is no godparent alive that you just don't know or never heard of, or there's no way to find out, there's always somebody who showed up to their ocha. Always. Very important. And I'm hoping that you're using the empty areas in your workbook to take some of these notes. Never, ever, ever prepay for an ebo before doing a reading. Ever. Some priests are not only charging for readings, but they're also charging for an ebo that might happen. And I was shocked to hear very recently that somebody was charging $350 for a reading. I said, wow, for that I want gold, a massage, and I need somebody to clean my house and cook for me for a week or a month. And she said, no, well, the reason why, it's because of the possible ebo. And I said, well, how does he know what ebo is going to come on? She said, well, just in case the goats have to be purchased, they have to be purchased on another state. And I was just in shock, because the reading hasn't happened. How do they know what the oracle's going to say? You understand what I'm saying? It was just very shocking for me. I just want you to be aware. Never ever prepay for an ebo before a reading. Ever. Okay. Number five. We are on page 3 of the workbook. We're moving along. Your ancestors are your foundation. If you have any learning in our traditions, you will know that this is very common knowledge. They'll tell you your foundation are your eguns. Your eguns are your foundation. We're going to talk a little bit about that. One thing that I want you to learn now is who your eguns, which is another word for ancestors, are. Make a list. Call your mother, father, aunt, titi, whoever, Uncle Joey, whoever, and make a list. Is Auntie Harriet? Tell me about her, how she lived, how she died. Tell me, start writing. Very important why I'm asking you to do that. It's going to be very important later in your worship. Who were your family's ancestors that lived a great life? This is going to be the key, because you're going to have your big list of all your ancestors that you know of, and you keep finding out as much as you can. And the question that you have to keep in mind is, who were the ones who lived a great life? What does that mean by a great life? If they lived with good moral character, that's going to be the key, because then they can help you on your journey. This is the type of egun that you're going to want on your shrine. That's why that's going to be so important. So a foundation is not just to have all of your ancestors there, but no, the ones who actually can help you. We can work on the others later, but they're not the ones that you're going to start with. But before you begin working with the ancestors, there is something very important that you have to do. A lot of people, this is where you're going to find the differences between Isese and Lukumi, okay? Very important, you have to align your Ori. Very, very, very important. This is on your workbook, so just write your Ori. What must you connect with first? As it's a foundational aspect in Yoruba traditions, your Ori. What is it? What is this Ori thing that you keep talking about, Iya Omileti? All right. Your Ori is your highest self. It is actually more complicated than that. And as you are learning, whenever you are learning with a priest, they're going to help to teach you what their lineage believes on what Ori is. But to make it very quick, hope you're taking notes. Your Ori is your personal Orisha. That is amazing. For us, if your Ori does not accept it, Orisha cannot touch you. So Orisha may want to bless you, but you're saying, no, I can do it by myself. And then Orisha's like, well, okay. That's how important your connection with Ori is. Why is it important to align your Ori? So you see this mask? If I asked you to untie it in 3 minutes, would you be able to? It's a mess, right? So I wouldn't want to. I mean, it gives me a headache just looking at it, because I wouldn't even know where to start. You have to know that your Ori is what helps you to make good choices, to help you through life. If you do not know which direction you're going, you're always going to be bumbling about. Your Ori will always support you in all of your endeavors. This is massive. A lot of people don't realize how much power they have, because they think that they're just riding the river of life. But your Ori really does have a major, major play in where you are right now. And I'm going to tell you the story that I told yesterday, because I thought it was really helpful. When you are in heaven, I don't know what type of payment they give Orumila, because I don't know what essences have as payment. But let's say that you decided you're going to go back to earth and you're going to work on being kind, being a good parent, and I don't know, having a successful child care center. Because I don't know, you love children, whatever it is. And I'm like, yeah, I want to work on kindness because last time I was a little mean and I could have been a better mom or dad, and I'm going to do that this time. So you make an appointment with Orumila. You say, listen, I need a reading and you're in heaven. And Orumila's like, sure, I'll read you. I'll read you on Tuesday at 2. Tuesday at 2 comes in, you come in and you start. I want to go back to earth and I want to work on kindness, parenting, and better money management with my business because the last one, it was pretty bad. Okay, no problem. He starts to cast it. He's like, well, we can totally do it, but you're going to need a little bit of help. I think that Shango can be able to help you. Let's ask him to see if he can do that. So they call over Shango and Shango says, yeah, I will help you. He'll have to initiate. He's going to have to do this and I will work on him so he can have courage, be a better parent, and be kinder to others. Because, yeah, he's struggling with that. And I'll help him with that. And I know about finances. I mean, I ran a very successful kingdom and I'm very courageous. I'll do that. So when he comes down, he just has to initiate and I will help him. I will guide him. And that's it. You decide the family that you're going to go back to and all that good stuff. You come down to earth and boom, you forget everything. Why did I tell you all of that? Because your Ori that's still in your head right now is connected with the one in heaven. But if it's not perfectly aligned, you will not get the guidance that you need to take you to go meet that priest, to get initiated, to be a kinder person, and to go to the destiny that you yourself signed up for. I tried to simplify it. It's a lot bigger than that, but basically this is how it works. So if you're working to align your Ori, you're always able to get support for all of the endeavors that you need and make the better choices for it. Whew, that was a lot, I know. Which is why we always say in the traditions, may your Ori take you to where your destiny lies. Because your Ori is the one that knows. Your Ori, and it's like basically your other half is in heaven. Like, remember, you were supposed to do this and you got to be kinder. Let's do this. Let's try to get you to make better choices because they're the ones who know. They remember. And they're trying to align you to remember. Okay. So as a foundational, yes, your ancestors are your foundation, but nothing's going to happen until your head is right. Okay? Number six, create and worship on your ancestor shrine. That's on your workbook, page 3. There are 2 types of ancestral shrines that you can create. We're going to talk a bit about both of them. The first one is anybody that you meet in the Lukumi faith, they're going to tell you, start with a bóveda. That's the first thing they're going to tell you. They're not going to tell you anything because in this time you may not even know a priest to work with, but get a bóveda. A bóveda, this is a very simple picture. It's basically 7 or 9 glasses of water, and the biggest one is in the middle. They'll tell you to put a cross. For all you anti-Christians out there, don't worry, the cross, there's a reason why it's there, and the cross actually it's not a Christian symbol, although they adopted it as well, but there is a reason why that's there. Depending on the lineage that you'll be working with is what will depict the meanings of each of those cups. But I will tell you something that always is the same. The meaning of that big cup is you and your connection to heaven or your connection to Olodumare. Okay? And if you see this one has a cross, so is your connection to God. It's just to symbolize that. There's usually a white candle in there, although I really caution people when they're not home, especially if they have pets. And there's always a white cloth. It's very symbolic. It's very important for us, and that's how we worship our ancestors. Now, if you see this one has the prayer beads, the Catholic ones, the rosary beads. Oh my goodness, I'm not a Catholic. And there have prayer books. Some people keep Bibles. Remember that this is an area to connect with your ancestors. So if you had, for example, a big Catholic family, this was probably the case here, you're probably going to do those Christian prayers because you got to call them. Okay. And next one is an Egun shrine, the ancestral shrine. Okay. You may have seen that there is an Egun shrine on the floor, and some of them will have a tile. Some of them just have an area that is marked. And there's usually a glass of water there and a candle. I added a picture of the one with the food because that's usually how we remember our ancestors, by giving them foods that they used to eat when they were alive. And another reason is because when we eat, we share with them a little bit of what we have to let them know, hey, we haven't forgotten you. And we know you're there. Thank you for being there. As you are progressing, you are probably going to get other things to add to this, like the egun stick. It could be an egun staff, other things. And again, caution, caution, caution when using candles. Some people actually use tea lights when they're just going to pray there so that they can, be put out quickly, or penny candles so that they're not on for days at a time. And some people feel comfortable if they don't have pets and children to keep a 7-day candle. And I always suggest for people to put a container filled with a little bit of water in case the glass cracks. It's just all contained there. Okay. You can do them both to begin to connect. Why not? Some people actually connect with one or the other or both. If you're going to start with one and spend some time with that one. I don't suggest that you start both because it's too much to focus on. So start with the bóveda. You might connect with it and love it. And that's something that will stay as part of your worship forever. Why not? You have to figure out what's going to work. And be very mindful because Isese does not do bóveda. That's not something that they do. Lukumis, they do not only the bóveda, but they also do the egun shrine. Keep in mind, there's a beauty to both of the different lineages. Number 7, white is a worship color in the Yoruba traditions. I'm sure when we were going through the pictures of the different lineages that you saw pretty much everybody was dressed in white. It's just the way we worship. You wear white for our religious events. You wear white in your worship. Whenever you're in question, we always say this in this house. When in question, wear white. If you go to an event, for example, and you see somebody dressed in mustard, and you know that they're a priest of Oshun because of what they're wearing, or people who are priests may come in dressed in the color of the Orisa that's being honored. That's okay. They're priests. I would leave them alone. That's totally okay. But for people who are non-initiates, white, white, white all the way. And a key element, if you're doing this in your house, when you're going to spend some time, you know what? Change into your whites. You're going to thank me for it. It's very powerful to do that. That one simple change. Number 8. Now you're going to notice that there's no number 8 in your workbook. It's deliberate. I want you to take notes. So grab an area of page 5 or the back area, which is completely empty, and jot down some stuff because it's that important when we're working in this tradition to know what a responsible priest is. Because if you do not know what a responsible priest is, that is going to be your downfall from the beginning. Okay? Let me jump into the chat really quick to make sure that everybody is okay. Is everybody okay? Are we good? All right, some folks, Facebook, they're fine. What about my YouTubers? Everybody okay? We're good to go on? Fantastic. Okay. I know these delays. All right. Again, very important. And I want you to really, really just pay attention on this one. It's going to be very important no matter where you're at. Even if you have worked with priests, I'm going to show you a few things. What are some of the traits to look for? For one, you please make sure they're initiated. There's some things, there are telltale signs in their home that they're initiated. And I don't want to see cups of water everywhere next to some little saint. That doesn't mean that they're initiated. Not that you can't have it. I'm just saying that's not what an Orisha initiate will have. It's just there's a lot of things. Make sure that they're an initiated priest. We're going to go through these traits because these traits are going to be key for you to travel on in the traditions. Number one, a responsible priest is a thorough priest. I'm going to explain what that means. When I first started in the traditions, I worked with a great babalawo, and he was so patient with me, and I was so young, and I used to, geez, I still talk to him. He was very patient. That's all I can say. And he wouldn't explain too many things unless I asked. I didn't know any better. As I progressed, I would see that this is what I would see for the reading. Blah, 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 they would throw. Okay, you got to get a candle, you got to get this, and you got to bring a jar of honey, and you got to get a rogation, okay? Okay. Okay, it closed an array, we're good. That was it. They didn't ask where the array was coming, if there's anything else that had to be done. I was never explained why these things had to be done. And that's the difference between a responsible, great priest versus just somebody who's, wet behind the ears. And that can mean 20 years in and you still are not thorough. So if something is like a letter and Odun is coming out that's kind of iffy, they're like, yeah, and I think that you have a bad egun in your house. Okay, next question. And they don't investigate? That's shocking to me. Like, how could you not investigate that? You have to investigate that. You can't leave that up to chance. This is what I mean by thorough. As you're getting to know priests in this tradition, just watch how they read and how they ask their questions. The next one is they have to be true to the tradition. What does this mean? In our traditions, you're going to find that there are many of us who have multiple initiations into multiple traditions. For example, there will be an Olorisha who is also a palero and is also a sansenista and is also an espiritista. That's great. However, you can't put voodoo and palo into your Orisha worship. They're very separate. So if you're doing palo majombe and you're working with your brijumba group and that has nothing to do with Oshun. Like, oh yeah, Chola's here, so Oshun must be. Nope, they're very separate. It's a separate tradition, separate location where it comes from, separate everything. That's how you know. Not that they can't be part of different traditions. It's just that they have to stay true to the tradition that they're working with at the moment. So if they're working with you and it's for Palo Majombe, great. It's Palo. If they're working just on Espiritismo stuff and you guys are going to do a spiritual misa, great. But Shango has nothing to do with that. And if something comes up with Orisha, then you still have to go back to the Oracle of Orisha to check that out. Because you can't take that as hardcore when it's not coming from the oracles of Orisha, okay? Lastly, you need a priest who explains things to you. I brought the example of someone who came out in a reading like, oh yeah, there's a possibility that, you have a bad egun in the house. And they just kept on going. They didn't explain what could be the possibility. They didn't go further. It was just a train wreck. And I was so sad because we didn't know. We were asked to fix. We don't know what to fix because everything now we would have to go from the beginning. And we would have to see what would have to be done. And we just didn't even know where to start because they didn't explain. So when you're working with a priest and they tell you, okay, you're going to get a rogation and you're going to have to bring a rooster and you're going to have to do this and bring a jar of honey. Why? Why do you have to get a rogation? And why do you have to bring a jar of honey? Like, why this ebo? What exactly is it for? What does that mean for you? This is what separates the men from the boys and the women from the little girls. That's how the awo in our house says it. It's just that this is what separates the people who know versus don't, the ones who actually can explain it in layman's terms and really tell you so that you fully understand what's going on. A responsible priest does not rush you. I can't tell you how many times we have had people call and I've spoken to them from our community. I don't even know them. And they're like, they told me that if I don't make Ocha by like next month, that this is going to happen to me and that's going to happen to me. And I'm like, nothing's going to happen to you. That's very rare that something like that will, no, don't worry about it. A priest, you don't need a priest who rushes you into getting anything, okay? Does not rush you. You don't want to feel that. That's not what our traditions are about. It takes sometimes a lifetime for you to walk your journey. So it's not going to happen in a month or a year. A responsible priest does not scare you. The worst one that I have heard personally was that a priest told someone that if she didn't buy this spiritual soap, she was going to get murdered outside of her house. That lady almost lost her job. She wouldn't leave her house. She was so scared. And I want you to understand that if a priest is using this tactic, just walk away and just lose their number, block them. That's not the way to go. You don't want to live your life scared. That's not the way to go. And important, a responsible priest does not belittle you. When I was growing up in the traditions, people would be like, do you have Ocha? That used to be the magical question. And when I would always say no, because of course I'm not initiated, they're like, oh, it's just an alejo. And they would roll their eyes and just keep walking. Like I was so insignificant. You have to understand everybody comes with their ashe here to earth and nobody should belittle you. You may not know what's going on. The only thing that they have over you is that they have more knowledge, but they should be able to understand and talk to you from where you're at and not belittle you. And in many times, even with me and my godmother, it's like she gets frustrated and then she gets frustrated because I'm asking or because of all these other things. And she always has to remember this is where she's at. And she changes her tactic to get to me for me to understand what I need. This is important. I didn't get this in the beginning. In the beginning, what I got is you just do what I say because I'm a priest. If you get somebody like that, walk away. Walk away. You'll thank me later. Number 9. Now, this one is in your workbook. I hope you took a lot of notes on that one, and I did that on purpose so that you could focus and write down what pertains to you, what your experiences have been. All right, number 9. Number 9 is you have to attend events. So you should attend events. Events are so much fun. Try to find in your area. If you're in the United States, there's always some area, some community that is going to have some type of public drumming or some drumming whatsoever. Even if you have to drive, take a bus, take a train, do it. You're going to have a great time and you're going to meet your community. These are the 3 big events. There are more. There are many, many more events that we have within our traditions, but these are the 3 major that you may hear about while being a non-initiate. A cariocha. A cariocha event is when we make a new priest. After the 3rd day is when we present this priest to the community. So that's called Ocha Bembe or Cariocha Bembe. If you hear that they're making a brand new priest, somebody made Ocha, there's going to be a party and everybody shows up. That is where the brand new priest is introduced to the community. This is also part of the credentials. So whenever they're like, oh yeah, I went to Ocha's Bembe. So you know that that person had gone through that type of initiation. Another one is the anniversary. This is basically the birthday of the Ocha. So my Ocha birthday is the amount of years after me making Ocha or becoming a priest. Okay? And then we have festivals. I'm sure you have heard of many of the festivals. If you're in New York, a major one is the Yemaya Festival, which happens every September at Rockaway Beach. I hope the Oshun Egbe got everything together and they had a great festival every year. The Eshu, they usually have an Eshu festival, and it's not a festival, it's mostly a big bembe. Oh, those are fantastic. So in your area or somewhere near your area, try to find somewhere and some community. Events will help you get to know your spiritual community. Okay? That's on your workbook, the second bullet. So events will help you to get to know. If you do not have a godparent, this is the best place to start because you'll start meeting and you'll start vibing people out as well as them vibing you, because this is going to be a very important give or take. So you just don't want to jump into the first person who reads you. No, you want to try to get to know other communities to see. Events will help you learn about Orisa as they come down and pay us a visit. And I've always said, man, we are pretty lucky because our deities can actually come down to talk to us. How cool is that? That doesn't really happen in other communities. You're just going on faith. We actually get to speak with them and they get to speak to us. That is awesome. Number 10, take your time. Take your time. Take your time when receiving ceremonies. So important. Never ever feel that you have to rush to get a ceremony done because there's a lot that comes with that ceremony. You have to stay loyal to that individual who gave you that ceremony, and that may be tricky if there's a falling out. Take your time choosing a godparent. I can't tell you how many times I personally have spoken to people who have had just disastrous stories because they rushed in that part by itself. It's just terrible. It's terrible because you're choosing a person that no matter how old you are, they're still going to be your senior. That means that even after they die, you will pay homage to that person. If that person needs you, you should be there. That person should be of great moral character. That person should help you. I don't mean that they're going to be at your beck and call, but they're the people who are going to be always in your corner for your best interest. That is what choosing a godparent is. Okay? Rushing may get you these results. You may wind up in the wrong spiritual house. This is so common because if you rush, you may jump into things that you just weren't ready for or that weren't for you. And then you're going to spend years without spiritually connecting to either your Orisha or your ancestors or spiritually developing. Oh, I've known people who've been in houses for more than a decade and even half their lives. And they're like, yeah, I just did it because I was told. I didn't know any better. There was no connection there. And then why do I put a bag of wasted money? This is truth here. If you go get, let's say, ileques and your warriors, and you love your godfather. Oh my God, your godfather here, your godfather there, godfather everywhere. And then you had a falling out with your godfather. And you're like, yeah, I got to leave this house. This is not working out. Fine. You do what you need to do in order for that to happen. You find another house. Guess what, my friend? You got to get those ileques over. And most of the time, you may have to get your warriors over. So you just wasted your time and you wasted your energy. And now you wasted your money, which is why I teach, and I try to drill it to be very sure of who is going to lead you and to help you and to guide you, because it should be a connection for life. All right. So why did you show up today? Why? You may want to connect with the spiritual and ancient tradition because this tradition is really, really old. You may want to find your spiritual house right now, but you don't know where to start. You don't know who to trust as a priest. I don't blame you on that one. That's a tough one. You want to be in these traditions, but man, You're going to want to have a priest to talk to and to ask questions. Someone who is not trying to initiate you and sell you shrines and do any of that. Somebody who's completely unbiased. You may need a little more hand holding. You may need somebody to say, I saw this and I'm not sure. You may need some of that. Or you may need to know more of what to do. Like, I'm ready. What do? I just need to move forward and I don't have any more time to waste. So for those of you, that's why I created Alejos 101. It is a program that this is what it's all about. It's about empowering Alejos and new Aborishas by learning the Orisa traditions and protocols to save them time and money. Whew, it's a mouthful, but it's basically what it's about. I got tired. I'm very, very tired of seeing brand new people just go through this process and having such a terrible time because of the choices that they made and a lot of things they just didn't know any better. So what do you get? This program has 7 modules. It's 7 weeks. It has it has resources and videos, printable materials, and audios. What is in each of these modules? The first one is Orisha Basics. We're going to talk about our beginnings, basically. And we're going to talk about what I call the mentionables. These are not Orishas, but they're part of our traditions. Module 2, we're going to talk about dressing for spiritual success. It may sound simple, but it's not. There's a lot of tips in there that I wish that I would have known early on, and some that I learned by watching other people blundering that one. Number 3, the students of Alejos 101 have always told me that number 3 is where it starts getting real, real, real. Because this is where you yourself start to do prayer and worship. This is where it starts getting, and in our Yoruba traditions. Then we move on to number 4. Now you're learning how to pray and worship. You're starting to have a rhythm. Now we're going to work on your ancestors. We're going to work on your shrines, which ones we're going to start. We can work in as a group. We can speak, and that way you can begin. So now what you've learned on number 3 is going to carry on to number 4. So that you can actually now start your own spiritual routine in your home. Number 5, oh my, I love number 5. It's about events protocols. If I would have known this, I wouldn't have gone through the embarrassment that I did 20-something years ago. That was embarrassing. I just had no idea what was going on. Nobody told me, nobody explained to me. And if I asked questions, they looked at me like, ugh, you little Alejo, like, get away. Woof, like, goodbye. You know when you're swatting a fly? That's how I felt. This goes through that. And beyond just events, just all of the events that we can talk about, we talk about that and the protocols. Number 6, this is a very dense week where we talk about readings and sacrifice. Yeah, we're going to talk about blood, and we're going to talk about animals. We're going to talk about what's expected of you, what you should expect of a priest, your behavior, what you should have. These are very important things, very real, actionable things that you're going to need. You really are going to need them. So that is that week. And on the 7th, we talk about ceremonies and initiations that you could expect before Ocha. It's important because sometimes people try to sell these things that I'm like, what is that? Like, I never heard of that. And it's what Puerto Ricans call bobo cuenta. That means that that's a lie. And I like people to be aware of what is possible. And it doesn't mean that you, for one, are intended to have Ocha. And it doesn't mean that you need all of these things. I just want folks to be aware. You also will get the support of a community. And it's going to be kind of like in a map for you to know the what's and the what's and the hows. You're going to create a unique advantage of a brand new Alejos. I say that because when we first released this out on beta, there were some brand new Alejos as people who have been in the traditions. And it's like, I wish I would have known that. And I was raised in this. And it was just really shocking to see all of the things that people just don't have in the beginning that could just make life so much easier in their spiritual journey, because now you're not going to be all scared and you're going to go and you're going to know what to do. You're going to learn how to pray in our traditions to begin your spiritual journey. I think that by itself is amazing. And you're going to begin to worship and connect with your ancestors. So many people start things, but they don't know what to do and they don't know what else, and all these little tweaks that can absolutely help you. And okay, I'll keep going. You'll be more confident as you learn the protocols. Very big on protocols, because in our tradition, especially if you have a really old-fashioned priest, they will embarrass you in public if you have no idea what you're doing. That is very real, like very old school. You hear, oh, my padrino, he's really old school. That means that you're going to get it if you don't know what you're doing. You're going to have confidence in learning about ceremonies and our traditions before Ocha. And you're going to have your foundation of connecting with your spiritual faith. I think that's big. What's the investment? You're like, what could happen? What could really happen to me? You could magically land in your perfect spiritual house today. It could happen. You could do like I did and spend years bouncing without a godparent. I did that. That was my journey, I guess, for me to walk. You could lose a lot of time trying to find out where to start connecting with your spirituality. I know people who it took them a really long time. And you could lose a lot of money with spiritual work that doesn't work. It doesn't work because they didn't consult a correct oracle, or they mixed the traditions, or the person didn't have the ashe to work with you, which is also a big issue. And that is why I created Alejos 101. It's basically for you to connect and to do it right the first time. I want you to have the best foot forward. This is the link. If you're interested in finding more about enrollment, this is it. And it is risk-free. If you find that after 30 days, you know what, I've had these weekly calls and I don't like them or whatever, I would hope that you do, and tell me what happened. But if it's not right for you, then in 30 days, you can just have your money back. So it's risk-free. And the total value of this program is here. It's quite a lot. You get a full course. You get it on a site. You have downloadable material. You get audio, so you don't have to be in front of the computer, which I've heard is awesome. You can have it and download it to your phone and just have it on the go and listen to it over and over until it kind of sinks in, because some of it is pretty dense. You have a private community. You have a bonus masterclass, which we're going to talk about. You have 7 weekly live group calls. Yeah, and they're supposed to be an hour long, but in true Alejos 101 fashion, they never last an hour. They always last more, and they always go off the deep end because a lot of people have questions, and it's okay. And something else, you get a 101 call with me. I'm not trying to sell you shrines. I'm not trying to initiate you. I really want to know where you're at, because my goal is to get you where you want to go and where you need to go. So we're going to work on where you are at and what you need to do. And there's different ways of going about it. So if you got to focus on Ori, this is what I can suggest. If you're working with your ancestors, let's talk about that. And we go dig into that for you personally. This is what it is. Like I said, no surprise from the beginning. If you want to do one lump sum, that's great. And you can have the 7 weeks all for you, and you still have lifetime access for it. But I decided that a lot of people don't have 300 and something bucks laying around, and I spread it through a much smaller payment for the enrollment. And it's 40 bucks and 47 cents. There's always going to be a 7 in there because I'm a child of Yema. Yes. So 47 for 12 months, and you still have access. You have access to the community, and you're not going to be alone. So this is what's going to happen. When you go to that link, you're going to get a page that looks like that. And when you scroll to the bottom, it has a lot of questions. It has Q&A. Who is it for? What has been some of the reviews from people who have worked with us? All of that stuff will be there. And then you go to the registration page. So let's say we're going to do the 12-month one. That's great. And you go click on that. And then you're going to get an email with your login details. And once you log in, you're going to see a screen that looks like that. That's okay. Remember that bonus that we talked about? I give, this is a class that's sold separately. It is very dense as well, very informative, but it teaches you how to choose your godparent, what you need to do. I had to create that because of so many times I've had to say the same information over and over and over. And I felt that it wasn't, I couldn't continue to just say the same thing over and over. So I put it that way, and it's just too many hours. And I feel that people appreciate that they actually put their investment in. And I put it in there in a full class with that printable that you're going to get anyway for being here with me today. And you're going to see module 1. As you see, everything else is blank. But each week, a new module is going to come up. And after that, it's going to appear like that. All of the modules are going to be there. Each one is going to pop up a week later. I did this way because I have found that when they're all together, people just kind of binge and they don't focus on the one that we need to. And I really want you to strategically focus on each one, because each one will build on the next. I want you to focus and re-listen, take note, because it's going to help you. These are things that you're going to need as you're meeting the community and meeting your possible future godparent. So if you enroll, you definitely get the bonus of Oh My Godparents. You will get one 101 call with me, and you get part of the Facebook group. You will be part of 7 live on the phone calls weekly. We usually begin a little while after. I guess that I'm closing enrollment on the 12th, so maybe we'll begin the following week to give people some time to watch the module, take some notes, and really be in there. And as promised, I am going to share with you this link so that you can have the gift as a huge, huge thank you for hanging out with me. So here you go. Here you go. Here you go. All right. So there is the thank you, just as I promised, just for hanging out with me on a Friday. Wow. And this is it. This is my time for Q&A. You can read on your screen some of the comments that have been said by people who have walked through this program before. And I want you to read at your leisure. This is where you can email, and this is where you can just join and enroll. And hopefully I will see you as part of this community. Okay, let me check out. I'm going to go back. Are there any questions? I'm just checking to see if there are any questions. I can't believe it. We went through 134 slides. Wow. It's a lot. And we're still in time. Are there any questions? Okay, I did get a question. I got a question. The question is, what makes this any different from a class that is free from people's pages and Facebook Lives and YouTubes? I think that's a great question. The difference is, if you're watching 50 people, you're going to get 50 different points of view. Their journeys are all very, very different. Their journeys can be in different lineages. Their journeys are based only on what they know. How we did our program is that I worked with not only my elders, but I also worked with other priests, so that other priests could help me kind of view things the way that they were seeing it. And this gives a different point of view, because not only do we teach the Lukumi aspect, but we also teach the Isese aspect, so that you are aware of what is going on. And my purpose is not to bash either one or. My purpose is to help you so that you could choose where you need to go. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I know that I have to wait for that little space, little space. I got this question. I know my YouTubers are pretty quiet, so but Facebook is not. Okay, Facebook, so somebody asks, if I start working with Alejos 101 in this program and I do not take some classes, are there makeups? There are no makeup classes because it's a module that is there. There are no makeup calls, but you will get a replay of the call from the people who did call in live. So you will get that. Okay? Okay. Yeah, okay. And another question. The question is, what if I only listen for the first 4 modules and I don't know, I have something to do and I can't listen to the rest? Can I just not pay for that second month until I can? The best way to explain this answer is if you decide to go buy a TV at, I don't know, Best Buy, and you buy it with your credit card, whether you watch that TV or not, you're still responsible for paying for it. So the same thing, this is here a program. You're paying for an education program for you. But this education program, it has a lot of live things and current things, but if you do not make them, you're still responsible for that. Okay? All right. Any other questions? Nothing from YouTube. I haven't seen anything coming through yet. Checking, I'm checking, I'm checking. Okay. Maybe because it's Friday, everybody's just ready to start their weekend. Okay. So is everybody okay? Did you find this helpful? Did you find it helpful? Let me know. Okay. All right. Okay. So on Facebook, they're very chatty. Yes. So yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So I wanted to thank you for your time hanging out with me. And I usually say this on the Orisa Wisdom podcast because I really love it. I hope that all of the elevated ancestors and all of Orisha bless you immensely. And it is always my hope that your Ori will take you to where your destiny lies. I hope that you found this helpful. If you just jotted notes, this is going to be amazing for your spiritual journey. So I appreciate you. And I do hope to have you as part of the Alejos 101 community. That would be amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend. Odabo.